Update. I'm Chris Curtis, joined by the voice of the Hawks, Steve Deere. And of course, we are lucky enough to have the head coach of the Heath Hawks, Mickey Moss, here joining us for this wonderful Heath Hawks Sports Center update. Coach,
lucky.
Thanks for joining us. Absolutely. We put aside to get you on camera finally live.
Oh,
now,
okay, together, that we
exactly,
get together.
Instead of in your office.
No, that's good. I'm glad we're doing it here in Rockwall Heath High School campus.
Exactly. 2014 win on Friday night, a big win, triple overtime win for you guys. Get a little nerve-wracking for y'all on Friday night?
Not at all. Not at all. It's a football game. It's always nerve-wracking before the start of the game or leading up to the game, but once you get in the game, it's like somebody's going to win the game, and either we're going to do it or we're not. And at that point, it just helps me stay calm to know that we've just got to execute and get the job done.
Of course, after the game, you realized you were in the playoffs, which is a great thing. You're back in the playoffs for the second straight year in 12-5A. So kind of talk about this journey from this team. You lost a lot of starters last year, and now it's a really young team this year, as Steve and I have talked about all year long. You're in the playoffs again.
Well, we've been in the playoffs 6 of the last 8 years here. So, you know, that's an expectation from my perspective, that every year that we're going to be in the playoffs and we're going to be a winning football team. And, you know, you look at us early on, we have 16 sophomores on varsity, and it's like a lot of sophomores starting and playing, a lot of juniors starting and playing, and you don't know how well they're going to grow up. But I was most proud of our kids, even though I felt like we shouldn't have been in that situation late in the game. The game should have been over much earlier. Royse City came back, made the play to send us into overtime, and then I was really proud of how our kids responded, particularly after the Royse City field goal, and how they just were determined to win that ball game with their backs against the wall. And even when things looked the worst, they competed and they stepped up and they found a way to win it.
And of course, Steve, you were up in the press box for the 2014 triple overtime game. Ever called a triple overtime game before?
I don't think I have. No, this is the first time. And you know, we talked about it before with the rain and the weather the way it was. The first 3 quarters, not a lot of action going on. Just the weather really inhibited that. But then all of a sudden, fourth quarter, 3 overtimes, we more than made up for the lack of action in the first 3 quarters.
Who stood out for you on Friday night as far as on the defense side of the ball? It's kind of been the thing that's been carrying this team for so long, and Coach Moss preaches it every week. The defense, you know, wins games. Kind of talk about what you saw out there on Friday night, especially in the rain.
Well, a couple of guys. Just saw Garrett Sweeney walk in here, and he really stood out. He's been playing great all year, and he really helped the team a lot Friday night. Then in the fourth quarter, when it seemed like a lot of momentum started swinging Royse City's way, they had a lot of the momentum heading into overtime. I kind of made the crack. Captain America shows up. Corey Wilkerson steps in, really helps solidify. He really wasn't even supposed to play Friday night, but he wanted to help his team. Stepped in there and really gave the defensive boost heading into overtime, and we came out on top.
Coach, is this the type of game that you really start to preach about as far as once we keep going along in the playoffs? Type of game that, you know, things might not be going your way, but you just find a way to grind out a victory. Is that something that you're going to start preaching now?
No, the kids just need to step up, and you find like Corey and like Jacory and Jimerson and like several of our players, Garrett Sweeney, Zach Dobbins, you know, step up and make plays. Even the young kids, Tyrus Fort, Jackson, you know, those kids making plays early on and then late in the game, and just competing on the field. And we got to make sure as coaches we're doing our best job to give us an opportunity to win the game by putting kids in the right position, making sure we've got them prepared, and then the kids going out and executing. Even though there's a lack of experience there, that's the other great thing about the game the other night. I wouldn't have wanted a triple overtime game, but I think it really helps us. It really helped us mature. It helped us learn dealing with adversity that we faced in the game, and for them not to give up, but to believe in one another and play for one another.
And of course, you have one more game in district against South Garland. They are 0-9, but it will be senior night for the Rockwall Heath Hawks. Be a 7:30 kickoff at Wilkerson Sanders. Scattering report for South Garland. We'll start with you, Steve. What do you see in them? And they're going to be hungry on Friday night.
They are, and when I look at South Garland, at least on paper, they remind me a lot of Royse City. They've got a 2-headed monster on offense with a quarterback and a running back that both can produce. The quarterback has like 1,700 yards and 11 touchdowns, only 1 interception on the year, so he really takes care of the ball. And then their running back has over 1,000 yards and a handful of touchdowns too. So they really remind me a lot of Royse City in that regards, in that they can produce either way, through the air or on the ground.
And of course, Coach, your old stomping grounds over at South Garland. It's always nice to get a victory against them. But kind of talk about your keys to the game as far as not letting them win their first game.
Playing them last year, I didn't realize there were younger brothers or older brothers that played and nephews, and and they're saying, "Hey, Coach Moss, how's it going?" And you know, even during the game, they're talking. But Melvin Robinson, who is on my staff at South, Melvin has taken over as the interim head coach because Coach Cox is battling cancer. Melvin's really done a great job. The school itself has been struggling in that district as far as getting the kids in there athletically who can play. And Melvin is an outstanding coach, and I know Melvin's going to have his kids ready to play. He's great for kids. He's an outstanding football coach, and I know the kids at South Garland are going to play lights out against us, knowing, you know, here's their one opportunity to get a win. You know, for us, we want to go out and execute early. We want to execute well and do a good job. And you know, we hope being senior night, you know, also an opportunity to rotate some players in the ball game that need to be rotated in. You know, for us to be able to go into the fourth quarter feeling very comfortable about our lead and put the game away and then focus on the playoffs.
Of course, Coach, we'll hear a little bit more from you on Friday about your senior leadership this year, but kind of talk to us a little bit about the class of 2016 as far as have you coached them and seen them grow up into the young men that they are. Kind of talk to me about what you see in them. Oh,
they're, you know, it's a small senior class. It was just one of those classes, and even with Coach Harvey in baseball, we were the same thing, and we have a small senior class, but there are some great football players and a lot of outstanding young men in that class, and not all of them start. And you know, that's the challenge in coaching, that you have such great young men that who do you start, who do you put in the ball game, and that's always just a burden that lies on us as coaches that we want to. But they've had great attitudes. They've understood their role, the starters, the backups, the role players, and they've worked hard. They've provided a foundation for this team. They haven't taken anything for granted, like accepted automatically we're just going to win because, you know, we won last year or we won the year before. But they've worked for everything they've gotten this year, and we hope we can go out with a big bang for this senior class. We don't know how long we can keep playing. The next week is not guaranteed, you know, after we hit that first playoff game. So we've got to take care of business to see how far we can go.
Of course, Steve, we do have one playoff game guaranteed. Kind of talk to us about who we're going to be facing here in 2 weeks as far as the Heath Hawks go.
Well, we're fortunate that things really cleared up this weekend, and we know who it's going to be. Carrollton Creekview is going to be the first-round playoff at Clark Stadium in Plano next Friday night. And so we were familiar with Clark Stadium. That was where we had our second-round playoff last year. And so we'll be back in a familiar environment there, and Carrollton Creekview in the first round.
Of course, first thing is first, South Garland on Friday night at Wilkerson Sanders Memorial Stadium at 7:30, kickoff for senior night. And of course, if you can't join us, it's www.rockwallisd.com. Any final thoughts, Coach and Steve, on Friday night?
Go Hawks.
There we go.
Let's roll into the playoffs on a positive note and carry momentum.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you Friday night for senior night. Until then, like Coach said, go Hawks.